From KPFK in Los Angeles, California, Valley Free Radio in Florence, Massachusetts, WNUC in Detroit, and BikeTalk.org worldwide, this is Bike Talk.
Bike Talk.
Welcome to Bike Talk. I'm Taylor Nichols.
And I'm Nick Richard.
Hey, Nick.
Hey.
You're back and I'm gone.
You're gone. Where are you?
Well, right now I'm in Fort Bragg, California, but I left San Francisco on Saturday morning, and it was really fun. My daughter and a bunch of her friends came to see me off. And Nick, a couple of friends of the show came, Molly and Chris, which was really nice. Molly is a big listener of the show, and Chris, her fiance, he's a runner. But I got to tell you, Nick, he seemed like a decent guy.
What do you mean, for a runner?
For a runner.
Oh, okay. I mean,
why would you run when you can bike, right?
I didn't know there was that rivalry.
Well, they were very sweet to come down and wish me luck and send me off. It was really a nice send off, and it was really fun to ride over the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, there's a lot of bikers in San Francisco that go over that bridge every day and ride up through Sausalito and some of those areas just north of the city. And it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
But windy, right?
Oh, man. Don't get me started. The first 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, the locals were calling it a wind event. Ooh. And I got to tell you, if I have any more freeze-dried food, I might have a wind event.
Oh, my God. When did that come to you?
On a long climb. Yeah. But I mean, it was so windy, Nick. It was really tough. It almost took some of the fun and some of the beauty out of the coastline. It was so windy. Today, it was better, and it's been getting better this week. But the first couple of days were tough.
Well, that's what you hear about this kind of trip, is that it's not a bed of roses.
Right. As Josh Bowden from Adventure Cycling was saying, it's type 2 fun.
The fun that's later.
Yeah, exactly. When you're in your campsite getting ready to go to bed, or when you're in the hotel room, it was a fun day. But when you're actually doing it, it's difficult.
Well, you're on your third day as we're recording this. You got some listener emails and support that you haven't read yet, if you want me to read them.
No. Yeah, please.
Here's some. I live in New Jersey in the NYC Metro. There's only 2 podcasts that I always listen to all of every episode: Bike Talk and The War on Cars. I like that you cover riding all over the U.S., New York City, Chicago, L.A., I know Northampton and its downtown. I lived in Palmdale, California in the 90s and raced bikes in LA County and have ridden it in just about every state for the past 50 years. Wow. I still love riding every time I get on one of my too many bikes. Taylor never mentions his age, but on a recent show, he did. And he and I are pretty close to the same age. So I'm glad to hear that he's realizing his dream of a long-distance ride across the U.S. I also have long wanted to bike across the U.S., but have never done it yet. I will, though maybe not this year. But you did get me to become a member of Adventure Cycling.
Oh, that's great.
I like that you cover all sorts of bike-related topics. The mix is good. Keep up the good programs. And thanks to Jim Pocrass for being a sponsor and for his weekly insights on bike law. I like that segment a lot. Well, we have one this episode. Maybe sometime try to get another legal perspective from other states like NYC or Philly. Sorry, this is so long. Kent Lucas, Cranford, New Jersey.
That's great.
Another one.
Just great.
I just listened to the last episode. Always want to make it last longer, but zipped through this one too fast. I don't know where you two find the motivation to keep going on and on, but I'm so glad you do. It gives me joy that I don't find anywhere else in the media world. Thanks again, and I look forward to hearing more. Once again, have a great trip, Taylor, and thanks so much to both of you and the rest of the team, of course. Cheers, Patty Shield.
That's great also.
And the third one is, the title is Rooting for Taylor. Starts out, good Taylor. I don't know if it's saying you're good or good for you, but it says,
no, I think it's saying that Taylor's good.
It sounds like that, like Sir Taylor kind of. It is late Friday, May 15th, 2026 on the East Coast. You set out on your epic journey in a few hours, so you're most unlikely to see this before you get underway. Nonetheless, I want to add my voice to the chorus cheering you on. Your interviews and discussions about the trip have been enlightening and remarkably candid. I'm sure that you are much more prepared mentally than you let on. One tip about climbing hills that I learned from a cycling coach: if you keep looking down, it's always flat. Thank you for sharing so much with us, and please, all caps, let us join you virtually along the way. Ride on, good man. Baltimore.
Oh,
Fred.
Those are great.
That's Baltimore.
Who was that? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Baltimore Fred. Remember?
Oh, of course. Well, those are all great. And, that makes me think of what Josh Bowden said last week on the show. You have to lean on your community sometimes. And I got to tell you, Nick, these last couple of days, I've had to lean on that because they were tough days. I did not do as many miles as I was hoping to do. And I struggled.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, day 1 and 2. So,
there was that one person you interviewed who was, he was 65, right? You asked, would he do it again? He said no.
Right.
You ever think of that?
Well, I'm not there yet,
No.
But I would hesitate about going north from San Francisco if the wind is going to be anything like it was the last couple of days.
Yeah.
But I want to thank the people for writing in because it really means a lot to me and keeps me going.
Yeah.
One of the first places I stopped, my nephew Sam rode with me out of San Francisco, and we rode up to Fairfax, California, which is about 20 miles north of San Francisco. It's in Marin County. We stopped at the Marin Bicycle Museum, which is really this gem of a museum. It has bicycles from the very beginning, the real things, all the way through mountain biking, which of course started in Marin County. So you want to play a little bit of that sound there from the Marin County Bicycle Museum?
Of course.
Okay, I'm in Fairfax, California at the Bicycle Museum. My super domestique, my nephew Sammy, has broken the wind for us. But what's your name?
My name's Ross.
And Ross, tell us about the museum real quick.
We're the Marin Museum of Bicycling and the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame. So we have the history of bicycles from the very beginning. This one on the deck here is from 1865.
Wow.
Made in Paris, France, known as the Michaud.
Boy, these are some tough tires, huh? Those are metal, iron wheels, hey?
Probably out of a carriage of the time.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have rubber or anything.
Right.
So that bicycle's from 1865, was known as the Bone Shaker.
Right.
It's made of wrought iron.
It does have pedals, though.
It is the first bicycle with pedals. It's one of the first production bicycles with pedals.
Wow. So it's not, I forgot what those are called when you kind of ran along with them. Oh, right there.
That's a replica of a Dracaine. That's from 1819 thereabouts, but that's a replica.
Right.
That was the first bicycle, and as you can see, it's like a Strider bike that kids would
Right,
push.
like a balance bike that we have kids use now, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And you got some high wheelers here, a couple.
That one's geared.
Oh, geared high wheeler. I've never seen that before.
What that does is you can notice that the wheel isn't as big as the other high wheelers.
Right.
Because the reason for the big wheel was that every time you
Faster you
pedaled,
go.
you traveled a further
Right.
distance.
Which is the same theory of why your chain rings are bigger in the front and your cogs are smaller in the back for more power.
Well,
The bigger chain ring is the bigger front wheel.
but that gives you gearing so that you don't have to have the big wheel.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying.
But that one is actually a geared high wheeler. You notice, like I said, the wheel's smaller because it has gearing, so it's geared up to
Right.
be more like this Rudge.
That's
from
a beautiful bike.
1886,
Wow.
known as a high wheeler, the penny farthing,
Right.
or as it was known then as the ordinary bicycle, because that's what everybody rode.
Right.
It was before roller chains, before gearing. You can see this picture here of all these different
yeah.
high wheelers. And nice, if you look closely, you can see some of the wheels are smaller or larger,
Right.
depending on how big a person was.
Right.
This was made in Coventry, England, 1886, by a guy named Rudge, who was also the fellow that patented and refined the ball bearing that we use today on bicycles, cars, etc.
Wow, and what is this?
That is also a Rudge. That's a tricycle with a large drive wheel here.
Right.
It does have a roller chain, but it's a 1-to-1, so it's not geared. It's
Right.
like a normal, just that wheels.
And it looks like a Brooks saddle.
It does. It has rack and pinion steering.
Wow, yeah.
This was popular with the ladies because you could ride it with a skirt.
Right.
This is a more expensive bicycle for the time, so like the Princess of Wales rode this, that kind of thing. It was more of an aristocratic
Right.
type bicycle.
Well, this place is amazing. We're just getting started, but it's the Marin County Bicycle.
Marin Museum of Bicycling and Mountain Bike Hall of Fame.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I highly recommend stopping by when you're in Fairfax, California.
And there's much more.
I know.
I highly recommend either the Marin County Museum of Bicycles or any museum of bicycles, and you really get an idea of the history of these machines that are so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about the wind, Nick, and the other day I was riding, and it was, God, the headwind was crazy. And this guy passed me, and he pulled in front of me and said, "Get on my wheel." I could not have been happier.
That's your thing, right?
Yeah, totally. You mean riding on people's wheels? That's totally my thing.
Why would he?
Well, because it was so windy, and he saw me, struggling with a pack on the bike and all that, and he didn't have a pack on. He was just riding. We talked for a while as he broke the wind for me, and he said, right up here is a coffee shop, and this was in the little town of Jenner. So we pulled over and had a quick cup of coffee, and we were talking. And his name is Ben, and he's an architect from San Francisco. And really just a wonderful guy. He's a supporter of the arts and all of that. But he has ridden his bike for 2 hours or more every day for 2,241 days straight.
Wow, go back.
Yeah, really, really amazing. And, those are the kind of people that you meet when you're on a bike ride like this,
Yeah. Which
which is really nice.
And it's just the start.
Yeah, well, yeah. God, is it really just a start?
I could see your face at the start of this call. You look like you've been through something.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. The wind has been tough.
Yeah.
It's been tough. I was planning to stay at a Warm Showers last night. That's that organization that hosts people that are riding their bike on long tours. And I didn't make it to the town where the woman, Judy Bonney, lives. So I had to tell her that I couldn't make it and all that. And she said, well, the next day, stop by. She's the postmaster in Elk, California. So I got to still stop by and talk to her and meet her. And she is really a wonderful person. She's an artist, she says, and she likes to put dots on things. But she also opens her home to people that are traveling by bike. So here is Judy Bonney.
Well, I'm in Elk, California, and I'm meeting Judy Bonney, who was my Warm Showers host that I never got to stay with because I couldn't make it. And she told me that everybody who starts in the Bay and heads north really struggles. And I have really struggled. But Judy, thank you so much for opening your home to me. And I'm curious, how long have you been doing this with Warm Showers, welcoming cyclists into your house?
17 years.
Wow.
And our very first guest was bicycling from Barrow, Alaska to Ushuaia.
I don't even know where Ushuaia is.
Ushuaia is as far south on the South American continent as you can go by road.
Wow.
And Barrow, Alaska is as far north on the North American continent as you can go by road. But that's just in the winter on the ice road, which is mostly there for big trucks.
And they were biking the whole way.
And they biked the whole way. She was Canadian. She knew what she was getting
into. A woman even. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And how many people do you think you've had over the 17 years?
Well over 1,000.
Really?
We're probably... There haven't been many people since COVID.
Right.
It's dropped to about a tenth or fewer people than we had before COVID. We'd have 100 or more people a year.
Wow, 100 people a year. That's amazing.
And mostly during the summer.
Sure.
But we'd have people all year. And we're still having people all year round, just not.
Well, you were so gracious to me. I reached out to you maybe a couple of weeks ago when I thought I would be here on the 17th on a certain night, and you wrote right back and you gave me some advice of where to stop along the way. It was really helpful to me.
Good. I'm glad. I'm one of the local tour guides, kind of.
Sure.
If people stop in, I'll tell them
where to go.
What's interesting around here?
Yeah, and not only that, are you the postmaster or
Yes.
And so you're the postmaster of Elk, California.
Yes. I've been the postmaster of Manchester, which is just south of here.
Yeah.
I was the postmaster in Philo, which is just east of us.
Right. Yeah.
And the last 6 years, I've been postmaster here in Elk.
Wow. And you said that you're getting ready to retire after 23 years.
Yep.
That's amazing. That's a hell of a career.
It's been a good one.
Yeah.
Nothing that I would have ever expected to do when I was studying mathematics. Mathematics with fire science.
Wow.
Well,
let me ask you, what is the craziest guest that you've ever had stay in your home that was a bicyclist?
Well, actually, it was a unicyclist.
Well, that right there says it, I think.
I'm not sure if it was the unicyclist or the penny farthing cyclist.
No way, on a penny farthing. These hills on a penny farthing and this wind in a penny farthing must be tough.
Yes. Both of them, they both said that they did like to walk.
Or had to walk.
Because these hills and the winds, they got a lot of walking in.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You know, I stopped on the way up at the Marin Bicycle Museum, and that's really beautiful. And I didn't see a unicycle, but they have a lot of penny farthings and some really beautiful old bikes. So I can imagine that would be a tough ride, and up the hills too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Judy, thank you so much for welcoming into your home and into your post office. I'm sorry I didn't make it last night, but it was nice to meet you. And thank you for opening your home to thousands of cyclists over the 17 years.
It's been fun. We've never had a bad experience with a cyclist.
That's great.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to stay with her, but it was really nice to meet her. And she's just a wonderful spirit.
There's been some news in California. There's been a couple bills that were defeated that would have increased restrictions on e-bikes. And we have friend of the show, CalBike Executive Director, Kendra Ramsey.
All right.
What have you been doing, Kendra?
I just got back from a lobby day today, mostly talking again about e-bike bills.
These lobby days are when you go talk to your state assembly?
Yeah, assembly, senators, or their staff, whoever's available.
And there were two big bills that got defeated, right?
Everything had to be out of the fiscal committee, so appropriations last week, and AB Assembly Bill 1557 by Assemblymember Pappen and AB 1942 by Assemblymember Bauer-Cahan they both died in the Appropriations Committee last week. That was a big win for us. Both of those sought to set a lot of restrictions on legal e-bikes. So those are class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes as adopted in, I believe, about 45 states throughout the country, including California. AB 1557 would have basically opened up class 1 and 2 and restricted the size of the power of the motor to 250 watts instead of 750 as it currently stands under federal law, putting us out of compliance with federal law, and limited the speed of those bikes to 16 miles an hour instead of 20, meaning that we'd need a whole new set of e-bikes just for California, and no e-bikes would have been able to be sold that are currently on the market, making that basically, January 1st next year, no e-bikes can be sold in California until the industry retools everything and creates a new set of e-bikes for California. So we're very happy that bill is no longer with us. And 1942 would have made it a requirement for legal e-bikes to need registration and a license plate from the Department of Motor Vehicles. The idea was that if you could tell what a legal e-bike was by having a license plate, they could tell what was illegal. So again, basically creating a system that penalizes those folks that are obeying the law by creating this onerous process that could potentially, to be revenue neutral to the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles would require likely a huge fee. And that's ultimately what killed the bill, is this huge potential fee and burden on DMV and also on e-bike riders. So we're very excited that those bills making legal e-bikes difficult to come by in California are dead.
I mean, that is missing a bullet.
Yeah, it's great. And we, what made this happen is a lot of coalition advocacy. We're joined in our work, People for Bikes, the industry association for bicycle manufacturers and retailers, did a lot of work on this. Partners like Streets for All, Streets for Everyone, who are both based in the LA area, as well as bike coalitions throughout the state. So CalBike had a email your legislators page up on our website. I know Bike East Bay in sort of the San Francisco Bay Area, the non-San Francisco part of the Bay Area, for those of you outside of California, they got, I think, a few thousand people to sign on to email their legislators. And I know CalBike did statewide as well in a similar range. So individuals kind of saw the importance of this and reached out to their legislators. So it's not only our partner organizations, but everyday people seeing that the bicycle that helps them get to pick up their kids after school and helps them get to work, seeing that their ability to ride that bike was threatened. And all of our organizations getting the word out, got them to take action. And also, we had 65 people out for a lobby day a few weeks ago during the California Bicycle Summit. A smaller lobby day with some bicycle retailers about a month before that. All of the folks that are paid to do this work had been having meetings in the interim, and we had another lobby day planned for today, which we still had, and we talked about the bills that we're supporting instead of the bills that we're against. So we got to be a little more positive.
You're earning the membership dues.
Yeah, we like to do that. We like to get some wins sometimes. It's a good feeling when you can see that payoff. And we were also excited that Amazon has decided to stop letting folks sell these illegal e-moto devices on their platform in California. That's kind of from a combination of these advocacy strategies as well. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition, but it's nice to see when things work.
Well, thank you, Kendra. Kendra Ramsey, Executive Director of the California Bicycle Coalition.
Thanks for having me.
And now we have Stacy's news.
All right.
I'm Stacy with this week's news. The city of Sacramento is turning to AI to protect the bike lanes. Starting May 13th, 3 parking enforcement vehicles are outfitted with cameras that will log bike lane violations and send warnings to the vehicle's registered owner. Those warnings will become $150 citations. The program will start in areas around schools. The expansion builds on Sacramento's automated bike lane and bus stop enforcement program. The program has issued more than 25,000 bike lane violations. Illinois lawmakers are weighing in on a pair of measures that aim to modernize state transportation laws. One measure, known as the Stop Superspeeders Bill, would establish a new protocol for repeat traffic offenders. Drivers caught going 26 miles per hour or more over the speed limit could avoid a mandatory license suspension by installing an electronic speed governor on their vehicles. A second bill would designate bicyclists as intended road users rather than permitted users. Illinois is the only state that has this inferior designation for cyclists. As a result, most municipalities cannot be held liable for injuries a cyclist sustains due to poor road maintenance, unless the road was specifically marked as a designated bike route. New York City has announced plans to design 2 parallel streets in Brooklyn into bike boulevards. Bergen and Dean Streets, 2 of Brooklyn's busiest bike routes, would add up to nearly 10 miles of east-west cycling. The plan is to install traffic calming measures, safer crossings, pedestrian upgrades, and protected cycling infrastructure designed to slow cars down without fully banning them. Overall, the goal is to end speeding shortcuts and promote more family-friendly riding, which is well-deserved, with 30 schools and 10 public parks within 2 blocks of the circuit. And from Adar Peralta of NPR's All Things Considered, we've learned of yet another group opposing bike lanes. This time, it is from Mexico City's sex workers, who say a new World Cup bike lane is pushing them off the streets and threatening their livelihoods. The government of Mexico City opened what it called the Great Tenochtitlan Bike Highway, 24 kilometers of bike lanes that run from the center of town all the way to the main World Cup stadium. By taking the outermost lane of an area of Mexico City where prostitution has been tolerated, the sex workers have lost the connection to where drivers could slow down and negotiate with their potential clients. They are blocked by the bike lane and often huge concrete planters.
So we have Jim, the bike lawyer, our bike lawyer, and we're going to talk about the incentive that's set up for drunk drivers to flee the scene of a hit and run.
This is something that we've been talking about before, that there is an epidemic of hit and runs, not only in California where I am, but Nick, where you are, and in Texas and in New York and all over. And Jim Pocrass is here again to help us try to figure out what the hell is going on with the laws that incentivize. Is that the right word? Incentivize?
Right. Incentivize, yeah.
Incentivize, thank you. People splitting after they hit a pedestrian or a cyclist or even another car. So Jim Pocrass, welcome back to Bike Talk. What the heck's going on?
Well, thank you for having me on again. The law as it sits right now with regard to DUIs and hit and runs is not really strong enough, at least in California, with regard to the penalties if you do leave. Okay,
right.
Because there's a lot of incentives to leave a scene if you're under the influence of alcohol, because if you come back 6 hours later, as we've talked about before, your blood alcohol level is dropped. Your drugs have metabolized, your speech has changed. Doing a physical examination by the police when they do take you through the different things to see if you're under the influence in your
speech.
Make
you touch your nose or walk a straight line.
Right. All of that changes over time. That does have an incentive to stay there. Okay. However, our hit and run laws in California are such that, if you just do property damage, all you have to do is leave a note, your insurance, and, people don't do that, or they put down phony information. Right. If there's a minor injury, it's a misdemeanor. So, it doesn't really mean anything either, because the penalty is not very strong. But if you severely injure somebody or you kill somebody, you can be convicted of a second-degree murder or a manslaughter, things like that. California has 16 DUI bill-related things going through the legislature right now. But if you increase the penalties for the DUI and tying in with an increase of the hit-and-run penalties, it could have, a change in people staying or not staying.
Right. So it seems like California is behind the eight ball when states like Texas and New York are changing the hit and run laws to make those penalties as severe as DUI penalties. Is that right?
Yeah. Texas has strengthened, fatal hit and run consequences to make fleeing legally devastating to the person. And New York has moved in a similar direction after the death of Alex Rice that happened there. A drunk driver killed her, fled, and then argued that he didn't realize he hit a person. That led to what became as the Alex laws in New York. And the principle is simple. They should never be able to use intoxication as a defense. Florida has also toughened DUI manslaughter laws and strengthened refusal penalties. California is moving in the right direction. I think that, it is a big problem out there because a lot of these accidents happen at night or in places where there's no surveillance cameras around, and people just feel that they may be able to get away with these type of things.
Well, Jim, I'm on the road right now, and I can tell you there are times when people buzz me, even on non-busy roads. And I just hope that if someone does come in contact with me, that they do the right thing by staying at the scene and rendering aid if the victim needs it, but also knowing that the penalties are as strong for hit and run as they are for DUI.
California still hasn't fully eliminated the incentive to flee, and the law only works if leaving the scene is clearly the worst possible option. How do you do that? Okay, how do you implement that? And that's where California is trying to move in the direction of some of these other states that just have tougher laws, both in the DUI and the hit and run situations.
Right.
I think we just have to keep pushing that if you hit somebody, especially a cyclist or a pedestrian, your best option is to stop immediately, call 911 and stay there. Okay, we need to, have that as the underlying mantra, so to speak, that it is better to stay there than to take the increased penalties for, the hit and run and for DUIs. It's a much better situation.
And it's the moral thing to do.
What we need to do is increase the penalties for DUIs and hit and runs, and just make it better for somebody to stay there and take the consequences of, what they did.
Right.
And I think that the only way to do that is by increasing the punishments after the crash.
Right. Well, we want to support those politicians that are standing up for pedestrians and cyclists. Jim Pocrass of Pocrass and Dale SRAs, once again, thank you very much. It's always good to hear from Jim about some of these issues, and we will keep following them.
Yeah. Now I have an interview with New York City Reddit Micromobility NYC moderator Miser, who's been on the show a few times, and Gersh Kuntzman, the editor of Streetsblog NYC, on Miser's third option for the Park Avenue redesign.
Right. Great.
We have a situation in New York, design for Park Avenue doesn't go far enough. The two options that the city provided are not ideal. To talk about it, we have Micromobility NYC Reddit organizer, moderator Miser, and we have Streetsblog NYC editor Gersh Kuntzman. I'd like to start off by asking both of you, how did we get here with Park Avenue? Like, what's the background?
Well, I'd love to jump right in on that just simply because I've been covering this for a long time. Park Avenue, for your listeners who aren't in New York, is this very wide street that runs on the east side of Manhattan, basically from Grand Central Terminal all the way up to Harlem. It's a wide street because a couple of decades ago, many decades ago, they widened it to accommodate more automobile traffic. And the reason it has the name Park Avenue is because it was famous for these very wide medians in the middle where you could, in fact, stroll in the middle of Park Avenue, have a sandwich, sit on a bench, read a paper, up and down Park Avenue. Now, when they widened the roadway for more car traffic, they cut into those medians. Now, right now, those medians are a very pleasant garden, but you can't walk through them. It's just a nice place for the rich co-op boards and businesses over there to put plants and foliage. But it's not like you can actually enjoy a stroll on Park Avenue. The sidewalks are fairly normal over there, and you don't have this median.
Park Avenue used to be something like a park. I mean, obviously it wasn't like a, wooded sylvan landscape, but it had big wide medians with trees and plants, and people could, sort of enjoy the space as public outdoor space and not just as a 6 to 8 lane car throughway.
So that was kind of the original sin of Park Avenue, was narrowing the median and widening the roadway.
There's been this sort of push, almost in the sense that there was for Penn Station, this like nostalgia for something that New York has lost, and this push to return to something more akin to that park in Park Avenue that we used to have.
And now the Department of Transportation wants to make some changes there. And basically the changes are they want to kind of widen the median a little bit, take one lane of car traffic away from each side of the uptown and downtown lanes, and add in some greenery and some strolling space.
Problematically, the two plans that the DOT has pitched for this both maintain the highway-like number of car lanes. So that's obviously not really putting the park back in park, I would say. And I think probably most people would agree. A park isn't very good if it's surrounded on all sides by something similar to I-95. The real problem, too, is their plans are broken up every block. I mean, we have pretty short blocks here in New York. So if you were walking in the middle of it, which is the goal of this plan, walking from median to median in this new quote unquote park space in the middle of the road, you'd be interrupted by cars that are turning, and they stack up in between the median tips every 100 feet. Every block, there's a cross street.
And even if you have these nice green medians in the middle of the up and down north-south roadway, every east-west block has a crossing. So there would be a crosswalk. There might even be a pedestrian signal for the walking people in the middle of the roadway. But there still would be, as Miser said, a lot of backed up traffic because the distance between the traffic light And, it's just the width of the median, so there'd be backed up traffic. Now, they're going to put some turning bays, and they're going to do some minor changes. But as Miser pointed out, look, you're not really radically changing the roadway, as it was, in fact, radically changed to accommodate cars in the first place. This notion there was, at some point, a lot of old fogies say the good old days. In New York City, the good old days, and Park Avenue is an example, Lower Manhattan's an example, was a car-free era when people could stroll, people could enjoy public space. And the people who are going to fight even the DOT's fairly modest proposal, as well as really take on Miser publicly over his more grander proposal, are the same people who always claim that New York was better in the past and how it's radical what people like Miser want to do. It's radical what Streetsblog calls for, when in fact it's not radical at all. It's actually quite conservative. Miser, you're a leading conservative. You like the trees the way they are.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get much more conservative than, our platform of returning to the ability to walk around your neighborhood, apparently.
So you're saying that the two options that the DOT is offering that people are, I guess, voting on, they're both going to create traffic?
Well, they just preserve the traffic that's already there. I mean, which is what the DOT themselves has said is the goal. Right. Or might be I guess I should say the impediment for doing the more enhanced plan that I've been calling for is that they're very baked in this idea that you have to study the implications with some computer model for any sort of street traffic change, because their goal, at least some of the factions inside of the DOTs, is to maintain as much car traffic as possible. So they have these big elaborate computer models, and they put in how much traffic we currently have, and they say, well, what happens if we close this road? Does all chaos break loose? And of course it does in the model, because that's what they've programmed for. They've programmed for 6 moving lanes, basically counting the turning bays, 2 in each direction, 2 through traffic lanes and 2 turning lanes, and then 2 parking lanes. So 8 lanes of cars on this road they've programmed for. And then they say, like, well, what happens if we cut that back? And of course, the model goes, no, you can't do that. You'll have traffic jams and stuff. But that's a bad way of looking at this problem. If you design for a city with overwhelming numbers of cars everywhere, and then you construct your models to reinforce that idea, of course that's what you get. But that's not actually what happens in real life. In real life, when you reduce the space for cars, you actually get less traffic. And we know this from decades of science about this.
All right, I think we might be ready to unveil your option 3.
Yeah. So there's 2 plans that the DOT has put out, one that has a bike lane and one that doesn't. Neither of them are, in my opinion, very good, because they still have incredible amounts of car volumes. Option 3, the one that I've sort of cooked up here, is taking an additional car lane, initial travel lane on either side of the median and filling it with plants. Then all of a sudden we've enforced the main goal of putting the park back in park. It's much more of a park if we have an additional 20 feet on either side on both sides, I should say, of trees. But also in addition to that, you want to close off some of the through blocks between the median tips. Like, it's easier if you could see the picture, but imagine a massive park-like space with a bike lane and high-quality premium seating and trees and stuff in the middle of the roadway. And then all of a sudden we close off these through blocks that the DOT has in their plans, happening every city block, which is, 100 feet or something. And then close some of those off so we make a continuous space between, say, 3 or 4 blocks at a time, and then let the cars through. We're not going to close it for the whole city, even though, of course, Central Park does this and Grand Central does this. It breaks the grid, so you can't drive a car from the east side to the west side directly through Grand Central. It breaks the grid. Same thing with this. It just makes it more of a continuous space so that the people actually enjoying the park, which I thought was the whole point, can actually have some space and be separated, and it cuts down on the noise and the pollution and reinforces all the main points of having a park on park.
Yeah, and it's worth noting also Miser's plan, by breaking the grid, it's not like someone is going to walk from Grand Central to Harlem contiguously through Park Avenue's parks. I think the main goal of this is to create 2 or 3 block-long parks where all the office workers and all the residents could kind of just gather and hang out. Like even in Central Park, Central Park is riven by 3 or 4 crosstown transverses, so cars and buses can get through the park. But for the most part, people just enjoy those spaces in between those roadways. And yeah, people certainly walk up and down Central Park, but for the most part, they hang out in a park. It's one of the few spaces in New York where you really are not inundated by the noise and pollution and just revulsion of cars in your face all the time. And Miser's plan for Park Avenue sort of creates that mini oasis. Nobody's expecting Park Avenue. I mean, if you want to close it down to cars entirely and turn Park Avenue into literally a linear park from Grand Central to Harlem, you're still going to have some crosstown transverses. But nobody's talking about that. And Miser's plan is not radical because it's not talking about that. Mayor Mamdani, who we're all very optimistic about on many levels, one of which is because he's a cyclist, so he understands New York in a lot of different ways. But one of the things that he's talked about repeatedly says he wants New York streets to be the envy of the world. Now, if you close down Park Avenue to cars entirely, that would literally be the envy of the world. You'd have something like a Barcelona Ramblas. You'd have something like, Stuttgart's King Street, a completely pedestrianized street running lengths and miles of the city. Like, we don't do that in the United States. We should. Okay, maybe that would be radical. What Miser's planning is like, okay, good job, Miser. Let's just do Miser's plan.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you saw other situations like this in this country. Gersh, you're saying you didn't. I think in San Francisco, they did something along the coastline with like the Great Highway, but I'm not sure if it compares. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to reinforce what Gersh said, is that it's not radical at all. In fact, it maintains access for cars throughout the entire span of it. And as the DOT themselves noted in their presentations of this, all truck loading for all of these giant buildings, I mean, this is right outside of Grand Central in the middle of Manhattan, all of the truck loading happens on the side streets anyway. They're not happening on Park. You could theoretically make a linear park like Gersh was saying the maybe extreme by American standards solution would be. But what I'm proposing here isn't even extreme. It still has car through traffic and car parking on it. Your car drivers are still getting to drive right through Midtown Manhattan directly outside the continent's second biggest train station. So this is like the opposite of radical.
Is the main difference in your option 3 that, what do you call them, the through blocks are taken away?
That and just more trees, less cars, which I feel like is just, that's kind of that's my motto in life at this point, like more trees, fewer cars.
It's also worth noting that Park Avenue, is one of the few uptown streets in Manhattan that doesn't have a bus route on it. And it's also, there's not that much congestion on Park Avenue, especially after congestion pricing has started, that the DOT needs to quote unquote worry about. They really do have this idea of vehicle throughput being one of their major important things. And the problem with vehicle throughput, as Miser pointed out, we know from induced demand and obviously the counterpoint, reduced demand, like that's a thing. If you make it harder and less convenient to drive, people will find other routes and eventually they will find other options.
Yeah, that's the crux of the entire argument, by the way, right there, that a lot of people just simply don't understand reduced demand. And of the people that understand it, some people don't believe it because it's counterintuitive. That if you reduce space for cars, you reduce the number of cars. A lot of people think it's the opposite, that you get more cars when, there's more traffic because the cars have to go somewhere or something. It's like, no, people change modes, which is what we want. And they especially change modes in Midtown Manhattan, where there's like 800 train lines within a few blocks of this. And you can easily ride a bike if we make it so, from anywhere in the city to here. What we want is people to change modes. What we want is the traffic disappear and to have less traffic going into, Midtown Manhattan. There's always going to be some with emergency vehicles and deliveries and stuff like that. There is some access still maintained. It's not like anybody here is proposing just pedestrianizing all of Midtown or something like that. But we've got to get out of this mindset that somehow 8 lanes of moving and parking and storage is necessary in the middle of Manhattan. Frankly, that sounds very extreme to me and sounds almost borderline insane.
Let me say this about New York City. If you can't do it there, you can't do it anywhere.
Yep. 100%.
There is some truth to that. We lead on bike lanes, right? And all these people who said, oh, you put a bike lane on that road and there'll be more traffic, right? But remember, if you put a bike lane on a road and suddenly 500 people who never biked are biking every day, Well, you've taken 500 cars off that street. The DOT never gets credit from that, from the pro-car crowd. They're always saying you've made congestion worse. You know what's actually made congestion worse in New York is, well, obviously the post-pandemic delivery crisis, right? That's one thing. But also the census, the population of New York has gone up by 4 or 5% or whatever. The population of cars has gone up by double digits, and that's documented. So you can't tell me the DOT is creating traffic. The people buying cars have created traffic. That's documentable, Nick.
Yeah.
We've talked about the history of Park Avenue, and we've talked about your option 3. What are the prospects for option 3? I mean, you've got Mamdani, but I've seen some of the bike lash in Queens where you are, Miser.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I was just on 31st Avenue where we had some of that bike lash, and they're, as we speak, putting down thermoplast lines on the street. They've resumed work as of about an hour or two ago. So eventually we win all these fights, given a long enough span of time.
Miser's a lot more optimistic than I am. I mean, we do win a lot of fights, but it's funny how they make us, this is the pro-car crowd, they make us waste a lot of manpower. I mean, 31st Street should have been a done deal 2 years ago so that we could do the next step that we need to advocate for. Like, our mission here as advocates and as journalists and as people who care about this stuff is, first we have to advocate, then we have to win, then we have to fight the bike lash against the win. And if those last 2 steps could be taken out, we'd have a lot more time to advocate.
Yeah, I do think on the plus side, maybe I am overly optimistic here, but we've spent a lot of time in the last few years building up this movement and tying politicians to our movement. And now we're starting to really reap some of the fruits of that labor. I feel like that, we've been fighting this sort of trench warfare, and now the artillery has finally arrived. We'll see if that's the case, but I have a feeling we're going to start winning a lot more rapidly, and we're going to have to do a lot fewer of these defensive actions after we already win things that Gersh was just describing. I hope so, at least. We'll see.
It reminds me of, how the conservatives were like packing the courts and like building the foundations for the project 20 of the new American century, except for bikes.
Yeah, this is the second time today you guys have alluded to us being like conservatives for our bike lane zeal or whatever.
Just the idea that we advocate for car reduction strategies. Like in the 1920s, women and men would pull their baby carriages out into the street to protest cars. Yeah. And now those same women and men with the strollers are protesting bikes. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah, people just don't want the world to change at all.
I do. I want it to change.
I do too.
I think it sucks.
It's, you can't fix problems if you're not willing to change things. So,
well, as a footnote to that, Miser, I mean, look, you go to these rallies, the people they're complaining, oh, the world sucks. I hate it. Oh, but don't change this one thing. It's like, well, if you want some change in some areas, you should think about being open to change in other areas, right? You're not that happy with the way it's going right now.
Yeah. I mean, the big problem that we've had, and this is getting a little off topic from Park, but the big problem that I always find in all these issues is we're fighting people that don't know anything about anything, right?
Oh, that's true.
And that sounds mean, but it's not like we're having a rational debate with these people. Like, they simply don't know how traffic works. They don't know how street design works. All they want is to get in their car and drive around, and that's it. And they view anything that might change that as a threat and make them think about, what they're doing, or a different way of doing it is awful to them.
When you say they don't know anything, it's like, yeah, I understand the idea that someone who drives around a lot has a certain view of the streetscape. I get that. But I was at a rally in opposition to a 2-way protected bike lane on the Upper West Side, and there were people at that rally saying, this is a radical plan that doesn't exist anywhere else. And in fact, there are 2-way protected bike lanes all over the city. They've been doing this since 2007. That's almost 20 years ago. So You want to talk about people who don't know anything about anything. And let's start with just, yes, this is actually something that exists. It exists. Yeah. Did we land on the moon? Yes, we landed on the moon, right? Going back to the moon is not a radical idea.
Yeah, but they didn't see us landing on the moon, Gersh. Those 2-lane bike lanes are a mile away, and they've never been there, so they don't exist.
Take a subway, take a bus ride.
Well, a lot of people would question whether we landed on the moon.
I know I shouldn't have made that example. I knew that was going to happen.
So how can we support option 3? I mean, I posted it on Blue Sky. What can people do?
I mean, right now it really is a publicity battle. The DOT is, has promised that they're going to study the traffic implications of it, which is good. But, again, I don't have a lot of faith in that process. I hope that the DOT can overcome it. And I hope our allies in political offices and our allies in the DOT can maybe push something through. But it's really up in the air right now. I mean, certainly it would definitely help if more people were calling for it. So that's the battle right now. Right? This is going to be a long process. There's many design steps. There's phases to this. There's going to be public feedback. It's a multi-billion-dollar project. We're rebuilding basically the entire roadway and train shed right outside Grand Central. So this is going to take a while, but the more we can snowball and get people aware of the options and aware that this wouldn't cause traffic, it would actually reduce traffic and give them better amenities, the better off we're going to be in getting it in the ground.
So I don't need to do anything other than air this interview?
Well, you're doing it. Okay. You're doing it. You're doing the thing. We just need more of it.
Thank you so much, Gersh. Thank you, Miser. And
You're welcome.
We will follow you both on Reddit and Streetsblog NYC.
Thanks for having
That's
us.
all we ask. That's all we ask.
Take care, guys.
Park Avenue is called Park Avenue for a reason. And that's because there was a park there at one time. And for the last 50 years, there's been nothing but cars there. So I'm all for making it Park Avenue again.
Yeah. Thanks, Miser, again, for coming up with that option. And we'll put it in the show notes at biketalk.org.
Great.
And Taylor, where are you now at this very moment?
I'm in Fort Bragg. I'm staying in a hotel tonight. Thank God. But I got to tell you, I really have enjoyed camping.
Yeah. What's that like?
It's been fun. These state parks in California have a hiker-biker policy that you don't need to make a reservation. You can just show up anytime and pay $10, and you can go in and set up your tent and go on your trip. It's really, really nice.
And do you have a one-man tent? What do you have?
I have a two-man tent because a one-man tent is really small.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, so how can listeners keep up with you? I was hoping that we'd be able to follow in real time, but I don't think we've set that up.
Well, I think we can figure that out. I'm just not good at that stuff. I was using Ride with GPS, and I wasn't sure if I could use that and Strava at the same time. But we will try to figure it out. I'm heading north along the coast up into Oregon, and we'll start posting on Strava and hopefully on Ride GPS.
And in the meantime, we can always forward your emails from biketalk.org, where there's an email button.
Totally. Please do. It means the world to me to hear those things, and I will pass on other stories of people that I meet on the way.
That's going to be great. And, each of those people who wrote represents a lot of people who didn't even write in, who feel the same way. Well, who do we have to thank?
Yeah, we want to thank Kendra Ramsey, Jim Pocrass, Gersh Kuntzman, Miser. And I also want to thank Ben, the architect from San Francisco, and Judy Bonney, the Warm Showers host, and the curator of the Marin Bicycle Museum.
Great. The regulars?
We want to thank, as always, Julie Richard, Josh Haglund, Stacy Randecker, Amy Ziering, Lindsay Sturman, and Kevin Burton.
Yes. Do you have a quote? Because I have something if you don't, but I'd like to hear it.
Please do. Yeah.
This week I thought I would just replay part of this episode. It was a quote from Miser and Gersh Kuntzman talking about who we're up against and where we're at in the fight for safe bike infrastructure and safer streets.
First, we have to advocate, then we have to win, then we have to fight the bike lash against the win. And if those last two steps could be taken out, we'd have a lot more time to advocate.
We're fighting people that don't know anything about anything, right?
Oh, that's true.
And that sounds mean, but it's not like we're having a rational debate with these people. Like, they simply don't know how traffic works. They don't know how street design works. All they want is to get in their car and drive around, and that's it. And they view anything that might change that as a threat. We've been fighting this sort of trench warfare, and now the artillery has finally arrived.
Good show, and really, ride safe.
That's my line. Thank you, Nick. I will. Thank you.
This episode of Bike Talk is sponsored by the law offices of Pocrass and De Los Reyes, with offices in Los Angeles and Bakersfield and serving all of Southern California.
Bike Talk is a project of CRSP and the Los Angeles Eco-Village Institute. And that was Bike Talk. If you have a story, a tip, or a topic, head over to biketalk.org and send us a message. Talk again next week.
Push on a pedal, get your heart started. Push on a pedal, push it down and up again. Push on a pedal, get your heart started. Push on a pedal, push it down and up again. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, push your feet on the pedals, and ride it all around, ride it all around. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, push your feet on the pedals, and ride it all around, ride it all around. Ride my bike today, it keeps me fit, gets me there. I won't go stinking up the air, leave behind the daily grind. Let your mind unwind, live its life, pretend to life. Better get yourself a bike. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and ride it all around, ride it all around. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and ride it all around, ride it all around. Get that car out of my way, I wanna ride my bike today. It keeps me fit, gets me there, I won't go stinking up the air. Leave behind the daily grind, let your mind unwind. Live its life, pretend to life, better get yourself a bike. Got yourself a bike. Oh, 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 got yourself a bike.